So hi guys, let's just wait for a few minutes. I think waiting for other people to join the call. Yeah. So that's 5 minutes, 5 7 minutes. I think is good. Yeah. So just in case you have any questions, don't hesitate to post them on the Q&A section. It will it will be good for us to like check them. So as we are talking, we would have we have all the chats there. They're live, and we can actually see what everyone will be asking, what everyone will be inquiring. Yeah. And so let's just split 5 minutes ish, talk about one or two things, and then we can get started. So, okay. Let's get this started. So, hi guys. So my name is Frank Tambre. I I will be taking you guys through this session today. It's going to be a fantastic session anyway. When we started, I had requested that we give each other at least 10 minutes each for other people to join this call, so that we can at least, you have that space for people who are still like arriving, trying to set up and things like that. But as we get started, and today's talk on like Git as an open source tool, I I will be taking us through like the whole conversation. I like calling it a conversation. I don't know why, but I'm a huge. I really prefer to call my sessions that, like, these are just opportunities for us to, so like, have this engagement, and for me to share my knowledge, and for you to also like get to learn one or two things from everything that I'm going to talk about. So when we talk about everything to do with GitHub or Git as an open source tool, I think the first thing that most of the time people talk about is, when you're giving a talk, let's give the how are we planning on going through this session. And so um, you you have to talk about the following things. Like, you have to say like, okay, fine. So when you guys are here, there's the comment section. You can easily ask any questions. I'll definitely see that as it pops up on my timeline, and I'll get to answer or respond to all the questions. Maybe not as I'm presenting, but at the end of it all is when I'll actually go through all the questions and present. So if you have any questions whatsoever, do not hesitate to ask them. And so I think that's like very, I guess, important for people to like know why, what we'll be using, and how guys are going to have the ability to sort of like interact with the person on the other side. Because sometimes you can have a platform where you feel like, no, I want to ask him that question, or I want them to specify, or I want them to clarify further. Um, so we would like give that example, and it's good for you to like have that platform and you to know, okay, this is where I can actually get to ask or answer this question. So I think that is something that I had to get out there. And yeah, don't hesitate to ask the question. So I know this talk will be having different kinds of people who are going to join the talk. That is both experienced people and both people who are beginners with Git. So do not feel like any question you ask is going to be quote unquote. If you feel like it's silly, actually ask it. That's usually my simple rule. Like, if you feel like this is a very silly question, go ahead and ask it. Before I get started, it's important for me to talk about the meetup group. So this is OSCA Nairobi. We organize all these events all around open source, and the different things that guys do together. So everything to do with open source, this is a place for you to come and learn a lot from. So it's been there, yes, for some time, but then now we want to start and get engaged. So if you feel like you have questions, you feel like you have any sort of like response for us, we have a Telegram group. You can join it, and you can find all those details. We'll put it up on our YouTube channel and that description, even at the descriptive place of this video, and you can get to ask us these questions. If you want to join the meetup, you can find us on Meetup, and you can find us on different other platforms. So please try and yeah, just get to interact with us. So my name is Frank Tamre. I'm the one who will be taking you through today's session. But the thing that I was doing for the first few minutes were to just say like, yo, you know what? Let's go through this. Let's go through this session where we go through this I like saying a very short presentation because it's good, and so the reason why we're doing it also, I'd say, is because obviously not everyone is that we will not assume that everyone is very conversant with Git, for that matter. So yeah, so let's get started. So yeah, so as I say, my name is Frank Taure. On Twitter, you can find me on Tamer Frank. Though now I'm relatively very inactive for a personal reason. And yeah, I help with the consulting most of the time. I run early camp and then Android for Kotlin Kenya, Azure, and now this, and now the open source community. And so that's what I'm mostly involved in. That's where you find me. I was taking this interesting break. That's a discussion for another day for the whole of this year. So that's the thing that you can talk about. Thing. So the matter for today is we want to talk about Git for open source. And every time, I feel like these two things really work well together. They really work well together, if you ask me. And it's good for us to like have this understanding of like, okay, cool. Why would you be interested in using Git as an open source tool, and why use a tool for that matter? Now, the thing that I think is very important for us is for us to break down that whole concept, of that whole way of thinking, and say, okay, fine, cool, this is how it is. But then let's break it down and say, okay, there's this Git part, then there's the open source part, and so that's what we're going to look at today. So in the agenda for today, we just want to talk about version control. Then once we talk about version control, we will go through and say, yeah, we'll talk about Git, then open source, Git workflows, and then Q&A. So there's a part where we will sort of like switch in between browsers and just like go through like, yo, okay, this is how this looks like, and this is how you'd actually try to like do a setup or something like that. And I'll try and do a very basic rudimentary-ish one. One of my friends we were talking about told them I was doing this, and they said, yeah, it would be cool for you to actually finally try doing something live. I was like, okay, we'll see about that. And the open source one, and I'll talk about something at the end before the Q&A on what we are planning on doing. So yeah, so let's start on this journey. So I'll not kill you with slides. I have really very few slides, and they're not very descriptive, like you'll be reading through stuff, and it's like a glance, and you get to listen to me a majority of the time. So first thing is version control. So when we talk about version control, what are we referring to? When we talk about version control, we are most of the time you're looking at us thinking about a few things. So there are two words in the word version control, as I've indicated here. There's version, and for that matter, when we talk about versions, that's the first word in that whole thing. Is you're thinking about when you refer to versions, you're saying like, okay, fine, there was this. There are like three things. So this is your original one, then it's gone to this point, then it's again evolved to another one, and then it's evolving to another phase. And so when we look at this, we are looking at us talking about, we have maybe a piece of software and it has different versions because it is evolving. You probably started out with a hello world, and then now we are improving it, and we're adding something else, and something else, and something else, and something else. And so as you are moving through these phases, what is happening is you're trying to tell yourself, hey, there's this version, and then there's this other version, and snapshots. It's like there's these snapshots of my code as it is evolving. Maybe the first version as you released it had, or not even releasing it, like as you finished coding at the end of the day, it was like, okay, fine, I was able to add colors. And so you have your colors there. And then the next one you say, oh, okay, cool, I did my colors. So now what's next? I want to add something else. And so you're improving on those versions. So the first version that you released had black and white, like my slides, or this is like a bluish grayish version of the color. Just do it in hex. And then as it improved, you added the next one and the next one and the next one. So that's what a version is. It's that. And the next thing is control. So when you talk about control, is you're thinking to yourself, hey, how can I have ultimate say over something? Because that's what a control is. You're essentially thinking about, how do I have a say over this thing? I am responsible for this thing. And that's what control means. You're mostly in charge of something. And so because you're in charge of something, you are essentially managing that thing that you're in control of. And you're responsible for so many things around it. And so when you put those two terms together and you say, okay, so cool, so what is version control from? When you think about version control, well, you're thinking about being in charge of actually those versions that you're managing. And being in charge of those versions that you're managing is you're thinking about, hey, how am I managing, the various aspects of changes or the evolution of my code from this point that it started with me just doing a simple blank page to now have added these other X, 9, 10 features. And so as I'm progressing that way, it's looking at 1, 2, 3, 5 things. It's something that is very explorative. I mean, as you write code, you get to see like, okay, I have this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing. And so when we are looking at that whole version control bit, also us being a software developers, because that's where we would 100% be hanging out with this version control, is that we are thinking about software. So there's a way in which we are having a say over it, but there is software that is underlying that is responsible for it to take care of all of these changes that are happening in our source code, in our in the various things that we're doing. And so for us to do that, the next thing that we definitely have to talk about in that agenda that we had mentioned earlier, which was we said we're going to start with version control, is we have to talk about Git. And so when, again, I said version control and I said software. And so there's different software that you can use to manage version control. And so Git is not the only one. Git is not the unique one. You have Mercurial, a couple of them. I need to also remember what they are. But that's what you have. You have all of those different ways in which you can use to version, to manage this version control that you're using. And so some of them, you can have, there used to be, I think there's Subversion. Also, you can use Subversion, yes. You can use Mercurial. There's CVS. My mind slips my mind what that is, the long form for it. But there's different software that you can use to manage the versions of your code. And so it's not uniquely with Git. It's not like Git is synonymous with version control or Git is not version control. It's just like it's that synonymousness of it. It's like this is the most popular one, so people are adopting to this. And so because of that, most people have defaulted to using it, not 100%, but most people use Git. But you'll still encounter guys who are still using Mercurial, guys who are still using Subversion, and all that. So when we talk about Git, Git is just one of the software. It's just a system that you can use to manage, to manage your the changes and the code, so that it tells you all that. And so what it does is the difference, or like what Git is that it gives you these snapshots, or it gives you like these reports, or like nice way of managing this code from like this is where you started from, then you did this, then you did this other thing, then you did this other next thing, then this other next thing. And so it really flows in a very, very interesting way. And so that's what you get to encounter when you're using, or when you're talking about like what Git is. And so that's what you have as Git. And so Git being that software is now we start to ask ourselves, okay, cool. We have Git here, and we are thinking about open source. So that's what I want you to do now, is you sort of like shift this thing and just store it somewhere and say, okay, fine, cool. Now we do understand what is Git. Now we do understand what is version control, in terms of like different versions and like how do you control them and things like that. So now we have open source, and that's why we are actually talking about today. And so when you're talking about open source, you are 100% referring to the open nature of all of these things. And so I'm not going to describe what open source is. What I'm going to do is just try and explain how now the software or the version control aspect and why using Git is probably a good way to do it. Trust you me, Git is not paying me for this talk. It's just me sharing my knowledge and why this is good. And so if you look at this, the thing with open source is that it's open. And because of it being open, it sometimes can get very either scary or exciting, depending on how you look at that glass. Is it scary or is it exciting? Is it half full, half empty? And the open nature, I feel, of Git starts to say that because it's open, it's for anyone. And because it's for anyone, then that means what you get to have is anytime you expose anything to the world and to the internet, even one statement that could be, I am going home, you could get people telling you, oh, safe journey, tell us when you get there. Other one will be like, we didn't ask you, oh, we are not interested, blah, 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 like that. You'd have different different views about it. And so because of it's anyone out there, one thing you have to understand is when I say anyone, is the first thing is that it's people. So there'll be people, and people, I'll use it lightly to also refer to maybe bots also, that will be scouring your software or that piece of code that you have quote unquote said this is going to be open source. And these people will be different types of people. There will be malicious people, there will be good people also. So that is both bad people and good people. And I don't think that should really or necessarily scare us, but it should make it even more exciting because it's like a whole journey that you're going through. And so because of that, now we start to think about, okay, cool. So these are the people. Because of this many people, and maybe the bots, I mentioned bots earlier, or the software that's out there, because now they're literally becoming part of our lives. And so they can easily scour, and you can easily add it into even your software itself and can add it to your repository. And then what happens is you end up saying, like, oh, yo, you know what? This is what will be happening to this thing. So that's like one of the things that is important for you to like think about and like remember that anytime something is open source is that it's open to everyone, or like just about anyone. And then because it's open to anyone, you have different sets of people, because what's the population of the world? And then you take a small percentage that is developers, and sometimes it's not even developers. You get different types of people. Sometimes it's just like going on GitHub, just like browse it and everything like that. So when I say Git again, one thing I have to emphasize when I say people is it's not necessarily like I think I've already mentioned that, like not necessarily just like people, but it's also bots. It's also all these machines that are like scarring through your code, scarring through the different things that are there. Can I contribute? Can I not contribute? And all those things. So the other bit is because of these different people, they come with different ideas. And so because they come with different ideas, one of the things that they do is these different ideas, one thing to remember is they will either improve on the code you have written, or they will even make some of the code you have written to be really obsolete. And that is like them telling you, hey, why are you using this here? And you thought that was the best code you ever wrote, but then, oh, okay, quote unquote, newsflash, this is not good, or this is even better than we thought. Or someone will give different suggestions and different ideas on how you can go about being very simple, or going through a certain thing. And that's what ideas now come in. Like all these different ideas are there. Now what happens is, now what you as the person who owns the open source project are thinking about is, how do I manage all these many people and all these many ideas that they have at the same time? Different ways is I would say the traditional one is, you would, because again we said version control, so the control bit, how are you coming in to say that the piece of code that is being added, or the lines of code that are being added to this software, are actually things um, that are actually moving the software forward, and it's not going to create this bottleneck at the front here that is going to prevent that. So amongst many things that you can think about, Git is one of the tools that you can use, and Git is really like powerful. Let's say that. Right now, when you are using Git, I think two of the most popular places you'd have to host your code if it's open source. So one of them places that is very open source is GitHub, for that matter, and so you could push it there. Alternatively, you can decide to go the Atlassian way and decide to use Bitbucket. It's still okay, and they both use Git as the underlying software that's helping manage that whole platform, that whole communication between the changes you've made on your computer or on your PC and moving it there, and even on the cloud. And so there's all of these ways that you can use. And now I think also Azure still has that. Like Azure, when you have access to the Azure DevOps platform, you still have to communicate with it through that as one of the a software that will be there for you to use it. Now, you're managing all these ideas, all these different ways of thinking, and so they're coming in together. And so because of that, the first thing you have to do is you have to think about, okay, cool, how can I help automate some of these things? And so, quote unquote, that's where we have things called Git Workflows. And so what you have to think about now when we talk about I'd say Git Workflows, is we are looking at us telling ourselves like, okay, fine, this is what Git is. And so what's a workflow? A workflow is us saying, um, it's how do you, we are sitting down and saying it's like a recipe of some sort. Like we're saying, okay, cool. How do we sit down and tell ourselves like, okay, cool, we want to achieve this goal. We want to build a mobile application. It could be a Flutter application for that matter. Pardon me if you see me talking a lot about Flutter and Android most of the time because I am a mobile developer, primarily 100%. That's what I love, coding and building or tools. And so you look at it and you tell yourself, okay, cool, we have, this is a version control system, and I want to take it from here to this other place. And so when I look at it, I'm thinking to myself, we have, we want to use a workflow to help us manage a way of producing this. And so because of that is, again, there's so many ways um, uh, that you can like get to use, and different mentalities that you can get to employ so that you use it. And because of the different workflows that exist out there, you can think about, okay, cool, how do I, what's the criteria that I should use? So there are different types, and like I feel like if you read online you'll get to see different types. I mean, different people talk about this in a very they're very opinionated. So you'll get to teams where guys will tell you, no, 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 we use maybe a centralized system where everything is here, and then once everything has been there, like a centralized system is where me as the person who is starting out on this workflow, for teams for that matter, is where you say, okay, fine. I, as the person who is starting out, is I have my initial lines of code, and there are different people who are going to work on it. And as they're working on it, what they want to do is there's this very nice single-ish point of entry. That is why everything is like centralized. So you do not need different types of branches, but all of you are contributing to the main branch. And that's like one of the ways. And I'll tell you that there are as many types of workflows as possible. So that you could say it would be centralized or not centralized. And you can decide to go the feature way also. And the feature way is where you say, okay, fine, we have this master branch. And so if you're working on logging, we've created a branch called logging. And so we will work on this logging, and then you put it there. Okay, then once it's, remember the master is what everyone is committing to. So you have, I start with my master or my main one, now it's main, and then you move and you say, okay, fine, I'll break it down and say, this is my login. In login, what are we doing? I'm doing maybe the sign up. The sign up is here as a feature. So as they're working on the sign up feature, someone else is working on, okay, the sign up, then I'm working on login as another feature. And maybe all of these are going to make user authentication that can be combined together separately. Another one, maybe if it's a news application, you're saying, no, I'm creating another feature down here and saying, this one will be displaying the news as they come in. And so that's like, you're thinking about it in a feature-esque way, if you can use that word. And so that flow is mostly as you come, that's the thing. The other bit is also just as a subset of that is you can think about this, and that's the one I think I've encountered with most of the time, is where you have a main branch, you have a develop branch, and you can decide to say, okay, fine, I have one of these two branches. Can I use a different kind of branch? And so that other branch that I decide to use is me saying like, okay, cool, I don't feel like I need this branch per se. I want to have a develop branch, and then I want to have all those other feature branches. And so what happens is I take all my feature branches and contribute, like as you come to the feature branch, nothing is going to be pushed to master until maybe a certain desirable goal is achieved. And so those goals that you might set for yourself can be anything to do with, we release our beta versions once every month or once every 2 weeks. And so all of you guys are working on creating these features and pushing them to develop. And 90% of the time it's probably the senior most person or that is going to be in charge of doing it. And so that's what you would have as one of them. Uh, I mean, there's so many of them. We probably can spend the whole day just talking about them. But it's that. Which one do I like most of the time? I like having one where you have the one that I've just explained, where you have. I like calling it develop release workflow, or different people will call it Git workflow, um, Git flow workflow. You know, with like you have a fixes one, you have a release one, you know. And so what happens is you can easily wake up and say, okay, fine. If we look at it from that perspective, I think I talked about this here. And so talk about what they are and examples of that matter. I'll go back again to examples in just a few minutes. But the thing that we've not talked about is like, why should we use them? And so why we should use them is very simple. You look at your code and you say, I have all these many people and different ideas. So as you're contributing code to me, all I'm telling you is one thing, like, hey, I am not going to add your code, you know, I am not going to add your code to this. Let's say, like, I'm not going to contribute it or add it to this other part unless it passes all these checks. And so one of the things you can do even at the release places is you can easily even come and integrate other tools that actually help you do the building. And so as I was saying, the one that I actually prefer is one where you would have a master branch, you have a release branch, and let's say you have one called a develop branch, and then you have different feature branches going down. And so what happens is you have your master branch that is always never touched, you know, unless everything has passed through different things. And then you have a feature branch, and the feature branch, what happens is you just check it out and check it out like that. And then once everything you go through your sprints. Your sprints can be every 3 days, you know, so every 2 days, 3 days, or every 3 days you release something. And so once those features are out there, they're being ready, they are checked and then they're passed to the develop branch. And so because they're in the develop branch, what happens is it really helps you think about it in this way. Um, uh, it prepares you for the releases. And so by that, by that, what you end up having is you get to have a very nice, uh, I guess, a very nice way for you to manage your tool, or rather your software for that matter. So the other thing would be me telling you like, okay, cool, we are we are we are yes thinking about doing it that way. And a good example of what I'm talking about is this. So you have your master branches I'm talking about, and then you have these are fixes. So like let's say there was something that passed and maybe there's an update or something like that. You can easily come in, fix it from the develop, and then you push it up there. The other one is from the release branches, as I was telling you, is once you have a feature, let's say this is login, it's over there, login has passed. You can easily add it here, and then we merge them together. It works in the develop, then we now queue it for a release. And then once it's ready for the release, we pass it there. Now, all of these things I'm talking about are very theoretical at this moment. But what we will do is, I am a huge fan of getting our hands dirty. And so getting my hands dirty usually involves me saying, hey, can we check out how examples of this workflows look like? So let me pull up a repository that I guess I was working on. And also one of the things we'll do also after this talk, which is very interesting, is that we try and push this to more practical esque setting where we say, okay, for this 1 month, what we will be working on is we'll be working on this feature, and this is what we'll try and do for that whole month. So I've pulled up my GitHub account, and I I'll use two of them. I'll use that, and I'll use, I guess, code theming two or code theming, whichever is fine. But let's start with this one. Let's start with Finder. And so what I did was I created all these branches, right? So there's the dev branch, then there's all this. I hope you can all see my screen for that matter. I hope you can all see my screen. If you can't see it, please let me know. Okay, cool. Yeah, so let me put that. Okay, cool. So I hope you can see my screen. Let me add that zooming. There you go. Is that okay? Using okay, cool. So that I hope that's clear. I've zoomed in. Okay, cool. So this is that's like an example. So I've zoomed in. So there's this project called the Finder. Concept was to I was still working on it. It's still like 10 months ago. I just stopped for some reason. So what I'm doing is it's a flat application again, mobile, to be cross-platform. And so what I did is I went online. Don't have a design I'm working with. Okay, I do have. You will be pissed off at me saying that. It's a brilliant game. I know he's busy. So I was like, yeah, I can't like tell you, hey, give me your mock-up for this thing that I want to do like that. So it was like a job kind of application that helps you to get jobs. And so what I do is I have my project here. And so the way I have it is this is just a slide, and credit to these guys, and I've actually given it in the description section here. There's a question that someone was asking me, or someone would have been inquiring on, hey, how do you set up your readmes and everything like that? I created this repository that just talks about that, and if you go through it, it explains. And what you need to do is just like you copy and paste, and it has this very nice layouts. I like to say of how you go about using it. So if you go to the master template, let's say if you want to do a web project or an Android project, you would say okay, cool. I have I have these tools here. I have this easy documentation that I can easily read. It's there. It's just Tamsi and then read me master template. I've actually pinned it. It's actually one of the first things there. If you like it, that's fine. Please show some love somewhere. Started working on it for some time. As you see, my first thing was 4 years ago. I was really frustrated at this time. I had started Moringa school, and most of the time you'd have students who just give you like a repository that was like a one-liner. And I was like, what the heck? Like, how am I supposed to know what is being used here? You know? It was really frustrating, but I was like, okay, fine, let me help people out. And so guys kept on telling me like, hey, you need to create one so that you can copy and use and everything. But like I saw the need for it. So what it is, it explains what it is. And I keep on saying, like, if you feel like you can add something to it, please let me know around it. So with this, it helps you do a bunch of things. So if you're doing your open source project, again, Git as an open source, everything. Some of the things were not covered in the slides. I felt like it's important for me to talk about Git Workflows because that's probably what we'll spend time on. But like if you structure your project such that you have a code of conduct, you have a README, and you have a contributions file where you actually tell people how to do it. And so you'd get this. This is like the landing one. And so if you want to use, let's say, Flutter, you just come in and use the Flutter contents for it, and it would be, let's say this is for Android, and this is what you'd actually get: release notes contributing Android, and then you get sample like the project itself, so this is a sample how it would look like, a very short one. So I'm implementing this. How do you have it? You have a project that looks like that. You have screenshots, they're broken. You look for one that's working, but there's no problem. You have a folder for images where you put your images up there or art, and you have them there. And then if you go to the Android one, this will probably be your README. You look at it, it's like you have your heading here. I've already put for you the sticker that this is built for Android or Android or whatever, probably another for Kotlin. And then you have your about app, technical, etc. And then you have your screenshots are here. General, you can have the screenshots of the app that you've done. Easy to create them, especially if you're doing an app and using Android Studio. You can just have your screenshot save. Nowadays, it's very easy, and you can have them there. You can have different layouts, either one like that, or you just combine the three of them together if you're good with design, or you can combine all the three photos together, or you can combine two of them like that. Or you can have one where if you go all out design and you can edit some stuff, you can explain here. Screenshot, take a screenshot without using that. These are definitely not my apps. It's just like picking random images online. And then if you've already published it, you can actually tell people, hey, you can get this up on Google Play. So they can click on it and text them to Google Play, and they can play it out. And then what are the permissions that you need? If the app needs internet, browse, phone, all those things, you put them there. And then explain how someone can run the project. How can they run it? They do all of these bits here. And then from there, if for option C is if you've already published it. And the other alternative sometimes is maybe you don't want to publish on the Play Store, because I've met now, there's an organization I think that was working on their app, and they did not want to publish it on the Play Store because I think they'd been burnt before. One second. Sorry, I was having an auto break. Yeah. So they've been banned before, and so they're like, no, we'll not publish it there. We'll have it on our website. You can put the link there to where someone can get APK and download it. Do not recommend it anyway. But get all the alternative app stores and you can publish them there. Then a technical side, build project, a to-do list, assets that you have. If you have credit, if you've used someone's content, just put it here. I mean, there's nothing bad with you crediting. Hey, I used this here. And then the problem is most of us at this time, we want to be like, yeah, I want to be original. But just improve on what is there and then you can get to grow from there. Yeah, and then you see like the contributors are here. So you could have a list of contributors and I'll show you how it looks like on one of the projects that we have. I think it's like a Drivecon one. I'll show you how it looks like on Drivecon. Drivecon. This is the Android core. So on the Drivecon website, you would see, let me give you an example of how you'd add like that contributions on. So if you look at here, you have all these many people who, oh yeah, you have these things and they're here. So there's an example screenshot, dev environment with the architecture that's being used there, and then you have a license. We have, let me see if this web one has the one where we put the contribution thing. Yeah, there it is. So you see, it automatically auto-populates everyone. Good example of using it. So you just, so anyone who contributes to this repository, automatically you're added here, especially if it passes the QA section, it goes there, you get to check it out. So that's like an example of one of the implementations of maybe, let's say, using that README master templates. And it's like, I just had to like mention it because you see that rule system that you want to have, you'd probably have them there. And so going back to the workflows that I was explaining with this is me saying, look, you have a dev branch, and then you have different things that are happening. So these are the features that you have here. I've not gotten to the release phase yet, but you see all of this app is not yet done. It is not yet done, but it has all of these same things. Is it possible for me to like clone this and show you? I have to take a while, but yeah, it might take a while, but anyway. So you have all of these things that are here. And so this code I've written, I've not pushed it yet because I think there's this, I stopped because there's like an inter things of like two things going, updates to Flutter, and I think I'd moved my branches. Anyway, excuses. Yeah, and so you have even here, you can create a release and push it there. And so for this project, because it's still being done, it's like, okay, fine, what do I need to do? Add this. And then I was doing my system. I've done a talk on this. If you go online, I think you'll probably find on how to do this implementation with this design system with core theming. But like that's yeah. So I tend to like move off, come back on, and I do most of the project. And so you have your projects here, and so you have your okay, cool. This is what it is. I have my UIs there, and this is what I'm trying to implement. This is what I'm doing. And so when I come in, I am having a contributions doc there on how to contribute. Again, you see, contributing to it with the name of your project. With love, that, and then you tell them. People will raise a pull request. Pull request is you will come here. I'm not assuming that people know this because I was told this is a very huge mixture of everything. And so even right now, if you come to the job finder and you create a pull request, you can easily create a pull request here and say, hey, we want this thing. And so you put it as a pull request. So there are 19 of them. I think I closed some updating and whatever, that workflow, creating a Flutter build. I'll show you an example of that whole workflow feature I was trying to explain for you for this. And so you see, you can create your issue here, open them, close them, like that. So that's what you'd have, like, if you're looking at the code, going back to this code part again. And so you'd have your contribution. How does someone, what are the rules of contribution? And so because you have this and you tell them, be consistent in the coding style used, there are some tools that you can use. So for instance, you can have static analysis tools that is both in Kotlin and in Flutter. This is just once they pull your project, they can easily know and see that, hey, my project is not up to the standard that was being recommended or being asked by the maintainer of this repository. And other people will tell you, like, no, we, for instance, the rule, one of the rules that I really love was like, oh, past this number of characters, start showing an error. Like, yo, we do not want people to write very, very long things or have very descriptive things, And these are some of the rules you can tell people. Have descriptive commit messages. So sometimes someone can just say, like, committed. What does committed mean? What are you doing? You can run this command. You tell them, like, hey, you can run this command and things like that. And if you have tests, you can tell them, for new features, you should have a test for it. Changes like that. So, like, in this project, it has like a test-ish feature, 2 types, where you actually, before you build a component and you want to like add it here, you have to show the other people that you want to use this that, hey, this project actually passes because when you go to the UI place, this is how it looks like, and so I come back here and you have the new features, the include tests, the code coverage, like that, and things like that. So you can have all these tests already, like you predetermine them, and someone can start to use them easily. So that's how you put like the contributing, and like the contributions document, I feel like can be really, really long. And I'm actually going to add this. And if you want to, by the way, you can come to the Git Master Template, go to issues and raise an issue. Put an issue there and say, hey, by the way, what if you added this? What if you added that? And things like that. So I have that. And so the other bit that you come in and say is, okay, cool, I have my project here. What's the license? You have to specify. Am I going full MIT or not MIT and things like that? All these other things are just nice to have. When I look at my code, is it, are there obligations or no obligations? It's just a thing that checks that actually when I say it's MIT, it's actually MIT and it's being done by this force about thing, and it's there. And this product has just a button because I decided to release it on product hunt. This is a challenge. Someone told me, like, add it here. Like, yo, you should actually come and add it there and blah blah blah. And if you have time, you could easily go and upvote it there. If you think it's nice, that is. So that's what that is. That's what the README master templates are. When you come to the now job finder one, now the part that I was actually about to talk or discuss on is now when you get in here, you see when you talk about workflows, and it's good for me to show you, like you see in the feature branches. So if you look at text components, it opens a whole branch that just was touching on text and nothing else. Again, once it was finished, it was added back to the next one. And so you have all of these branches. And so all these branches is, you have a dev branch, then I went to buttons, and buttons was merged to where? Dev branch. And after dev branch, I move it to, master. Same thing, workflows, finished. Okay, cool, there. And so workflows is something that I wanted to talk about maybe, because when you look at what I did with workflows was for me to say, and this is what it was saying, good. So you mostly use it you have to add this in your main.yaml. I don't want to do like the screen things because you can easily go in here and just check them out. And so when you come to this folder called GitHub Workflows, you create that folder, and then once you have it there, you have a folder inside it called main.yml, and you can get all of these examples of different workflows. You can get something that someone has done. I think I need to check out marketplace actions. Yes, sorry, that was the word I was looking for. Actions is the right one. And so for the actions part, they are here. And so you can have workflows where you actually explain what it is. So you can have actions for when someone pushes, what happens? What does it do? What does it do? It runs, it checks all these things. If it's not there, that's it. So when someone wants to do a commit, remember the test example that I was telling you just a few minutes earlier, like if you want someone to check whether the test works or not, they can come in here and actually check it out. And so you actually come, navigate, check out all of these things, and so you check out the workflow. So if you come to your actions, even on your repository here, you come in here and you go to actions. There's a whole marketplace for where you can get all of this things. And so if you click on a new workflow, I can come in here and choose what's the workflow I want to have. I can set up one for that and all of the rest that are here. I want to deploy Node.js app to Azure Web Store, and so it will check every time you want to do. And so here, a good example is I can say, okay, cool, let's try and set up this one. Risky, but that's fine. You see, it tells you which branch am I setting up to. So this is very important. If you've already changed your repository names for, instead of like master, using main, please have it there. So you'd have all of this. You can easily come edit and if you want to, but it will come and run the test. And so once I do this, I can start a commit here. And so when I start a commit, you'll actually see it will come in, it will change. Okay, added that, whatever. So I'm lazy. Sorry, I'm lazy. Me being lazy, I'll do that, and I'll just say continue. I'm coding on here. There I am. And so when you check this out, what it will do, it will go through the whole emotions. I'd say emotions of checking. You see, it's still running. And once it's done, will give you like a report on whether it's been successful or not. You see, some checks have to be completed. So you see that Flutter workflow that I already have inside my repository, which is in main.yaml. You see here, it's mostly a Flutter one. And what it does is it will go create these builds and sort of like get to run it and see whether it works or not. The commit you've put, does it help or not help? So now you see already there's an error. And so I'll have to come in and check why is the build failing? Why is the build failing? Build is failing because of what? So I'll have to come check it out. One is not successful. And so it's easy for someone to tell them like, no. You see, this is a very protected one. I'm not allowed to do any commit to the master branch. I had forgotten that. Wow, yeah. The owner of the repository actually forgot about it. So on pull request, you do that. So you're not supposed to, you're limiting PR from any branch, pull request from to master from any branch. So I'll have to do it in the develop branch. I have to be active on the develop branch so that I do that. So maybe the dev branch can work. Yeah. So once I'm in the dev branch, it's me saying, one commit ahead, one commit here in master, problem, see, actions are there. Flutter that is there, and there it is. Yeah, so I can say that should I delete it? No, let me not delete it. I have returned it to the master one. No, so I'll have to like come in again and like correct this and say no. Now what I want it to do, I want you to run it on the branch one, which branch? On the dev branch. And so once I check out and say like, okay, cool, I want to run it on the workflow on the dev branch instead of the master one. Let's see, actually, let's try and do that here. I know how to do it on Terminal, but let's try and do it here because again, I told you, let's be lazy today. So let's come in here, all the workflows and add them. So which branch are we targeting? Let's target the branch one. And this dev one, that was a while back. I want to come to that, and I want to, yeah, no, it's fine. I want to go to the there's no workflow that I have done the run for it. So I have to do a commit first to the dev branch so that we see whether it will work or not. What do we do here? Let's try do this merges. Yeah, let's try do this merges. Let's open up here. A very interesting thing to check. So let's do it here. So we want to move from dev to master, but first we have to move from let's go from dev to master. And you see, already tells you submit queue actions failure on master. So already that's a problem. Let me just merge for now because I know where the error is. I do not want to delete that branch. What I want to do again is I have another PR that I want to do. Sign also done with the 1 second. I merge these changes. I come back to dev, and it tells me I am behind. And this is running. Yes, it is failing. And that's very interesting. It's not ahead of the upstream master, so it's really very easy. I don't know why I'm turning on all these clicking things. Is okay, good. It's loading. I think so. Okay, 1 second. Probably getting this wrong. If you have ideas, you can like comment there. Branch is behind, so I would have actually preferred. Let's do and let's do from the master in the dev. So we from master to dev. So I want to see that just update variables like e that one. There you go. And this page is free, like you can get in and all checks are failing, all of them still because it's errors, man. Like there's so many errors here. Probably have time to do it. Let's see, checks are not successful. So, it starts telling me all of these things. Maybe if I check this, what's the problem with this? Yeah, it's installing dependencies. There's a problem because of, and this is a very good thing. Like, see, this is something that it actually triggers. It's good we actually got to get in here. What happens if it checks out? I think that language is like ahead. Flutter users should run Flutter pubget instead of pubget, and so there, that's already an error. So this is not a Dart project. So I'll have to remove this action. Even if I do rerun all the jobs after I fix, let's say, all the code, it still give me the errors, right? Same errors. Let's check out the Flutter. Why is the Flutter having errors rather? Flutter, Android, probably need to update. I know I need to update that. Yes, I know I need to update it. So, yeah. So you need to like upgrade all those things. So it's a very like previous one, and so we have to change all of these actions, allow all those things. It's like probably gonna take some time. And yeah, I'm going to fix it, and you'll see it running into like red, sorry, green. And so you can easily be the person who now comes and checks in. You see, this is code that we just randomly pushed right now, and you've already seen like these are the errors. So if I was a contributor to this open source project, already I'm coming in and seeing, yo, there are gates. It's not like a prevention mechanism per se, but it's like a very nice opportunity for us to like, play around with it. So that being said, I am, I guess that's where we can stop the talk itself. I don't want to weigh you down with all these talks and me talking about 1,000,001 things and you wondering, okay, guy, oh my goodness, how are you doing this? So sorry for that. We were here. I can do that. I think so. Sorry if you're hearing clicks. Apologies for that. Yes, thank you. So this is like a good example where you have a develop branch, features. Like I showed you that example where this is what it meant actually by that. This is where you have your master branch or your main branch, and then you have features, the text components in the feature, and then you have your buttons, your components gallery. Like that's a workflow. It's like a feature that you are adding on the project to say like, hey, can we do this? And then you have the Flutter action. We actually added the data workflow right now. And then you have the Flutter action, and then the how are we creating issues templates, job opportunities results, a landing page, about 15 issues templates. I was like trying to fix if there's something there, put it back down. Yeah, it's like trying to set up all these like workflows environments. Is this working? I have a utilities feature. If you know Flutter, you can probably like come in and check out here. And this is the test tool I was telling you guys where I have my galleries are here. And so I'm not like writing like actual code tests, but it's like to check and say, if you say you're giving us a button or like a list time, does it look like this? And does it actually work? You're saying, let's move us to this other place. It's like a menu. Really sorry for that. So for the cards, let's say if you want to contribute and add like a very nice card of yours, that's it. Show us that. And so you have your galleries, you have your new styles and everything like that. So you have your new styles cards and this is the main one. Actually, these are main things like buttons. So different kinds of buttons that exist in the app itself, you have them here. You have this button gray, you have this like a totally flat button which it's already deprecated now. I have to change it and make something else. And it's flatter. And so you have them there. And I guess this is like one of the ways of me trying to say like, okay, cool, because this is a philosophy that I actually believe in, why not just deploy it, the other thing that I've started working on now is, I'm actually going to go back to that, don't worry. It's like you have this kind of moment here. I think I was seeing like a login or the so the Kotlin guys or the mobile development guys who are in love with the new Jetpack Compose. So I'm doing this Jetpack Compose like series, like an exploration on seeing where you can actually get to meet them. I'm really sorry for the guys who are like primarily web people. You probably hate me for this, but I used to do web in the past and I have like projects on that. But yeah, let me just talk about the parts that I'm actually working on actively. So even with this, I've not started like laying it down like every single thing, but like laying that foundation and saying, even with this user or not with user or sorry, it is not user out. I am really sorry for taking you here. Flix companion rather. So what the Flix companion is, it's like the way you have Netflix and okay, I'm not talking about the chilling part of Netflix and chill, but the Netflix in part where you sit down watching movies, whether it's Netflix, HBO, YouTube, or from your friends on the internet. So those ones, whichever place you're using. So for me, is already have two branches where I'm looking at, okay, fine, I'm doing theming right now. I'm just pushing to master for now. Obviously, I'll create a dev branch because I want to push all the theming things to there. I'll push them to dev. I know it's going to be really, really huge because even with this one, you see, look at the number of inspirations that you have. You have this. It would be a nice repository, I guess, for you to also get to know how to do or use Jetpack Compose because these are like I'm using like inspirations from all of these like dribble places and giving them. I'm actually going to give them like credit. And you see, like before I start like writing that code, I usually believe in like make it really beneficial for you. So I do this research. I go in and say, okay, cool. Why am I here? Senior mobile, senior mobile. So like out of all of this, what did I want? I just want to do like the bottom part and the way it looks like. I was like, wow, this is like I like the way they've done that whole circular-ish thing there. And when you click it, it displays, and maybe here it says like favorites, and it says this. But you see, I don't have access to this file per se, but I just love the bottom part. I have nothing against the top part because I feel like I have another very nice top parts over here. Like I can check out the way this one looks like, and I'm like, okay, cool. I love the way they've arranged, that new part, the way it's sort of like an off thing. You have this one for me was just this reddish buttons and how they change there. I think I had another inspiration. I was like, okay, cool, this is very cool. You see the way it is. It's like I can have it here written, or do I have it there? I've not like decided on how I want them to look like. But that's simply put of saying like 87%, it's grossing, it's losing money, is it making money? And maybe if you're someone who wants to watch movies because of the way how much money it's making, I mean that's your thing. Yeah, so this was the thing. I was like, oh yeah, I love the way it's like full. Obviously, my app is only like jump out of the screen, but I love the way it's like an offset-ish sort of thing, and you just go on. I'm looking at these things and I'm like, yeah, nice. I like the movement of this. The animation for this part is like to look at it. This is how it looks like, and you scroll up, or when you click here, this is what happens. It's like it's a very more complete sort of app, and you have an idea of even if I have to be doing animations, this is how the animations needs to look like, and this is how they need to look like. And the thing is, like, it's these challenges that you set for yourself. You see even that one, like, how do you move to the side? How does it look like? Or when you search, this one uses audio to do, not like something that is immediate for now. So those are like just samples of things, let's say, if you're working on. But then the most important thing is us to remember in every project that you'll ever start, there'll always be an actions place that you can always come in and say, hey, like even this one, I haven't set up the actions yet because I usually prefer to do it when I'm in a hurry or something like that. A simple workflow, echo, hello world, blah, blah. You can even have your own tests here. But you see, for me, I'd come in here and say, I want to set up one for Kotlin maybe. and you can easily learn about them. Sorry, it's something that I should have mentioned. So you can learn about the core concepts and how it does, how do you configure and manage the workflows and that. And I think it's really easy for you to like set it up. You can have all this like a stale issue where someone raised an issue and someone's like, "Oh, dude, how can we work on this thing?" Yeah, even the Android one. So you can just come in here and play around with it. There are many, man. There's even an Android one here. You can build a project with Gradle, see whether it's working or not, set up the versions of it. Node.js people, .NET people. The workflows are here. If you've used it before and if you like this case spending a lot of time on something that you already know, it's cool. Key thing here that I was trying to explain for me was just trying to explain this whole process where you could also have all these features that I was trying to explain with this and saying like, look, every feature that you have here that you're working on now, someone might know now I'm focusing on theming, and that's why I think I was explaining to you guys, telling you normally when I start doing theming of like UIs and stuff, it gets me into this mode of like thinking, and so now I had met this very nice, interesting color palette online, and also like create for the rest of like the apps I let me just like come in here, and it's very straightforward. So yeah, it's very straightforward. Like you come in here and you just like say, you don't even need to think about it because you have all the colors here. There's like different versions of them. So if you have working on a project and you need this kind of combination, you can simply use it. So I guess that's that. If you have any questions whatsoever, so thank you so much for your time, for listening, everything like that. I will upload the slides online and then I'll put the link on the description of this session. And yeah, now is the time where I get to listen to your questions and answer them for a few minutes before we, I guess, log off. So if there's any questions from anyone, I welcome you. If you have any questions whatsoever, I guess I can give you like a minute or so for you to answer that. Yeah, so just if you have any questions whatsoever, just get in touch, ask your questions. I will gladly answer them. Yeah, I will gladly answer them. Yes. Yeah, so thank you. Thank you so much, Rama. I guess it's like, oh yeah, good, awesome. I'm imagining the rockets mean that the talk was okay and not that I flew out and left you guys here. Yeah. Yeah, any other question before we end the session, I guess? Yeah, anyone with a question? Yeah, give like one last minute. I think I'm going to just give them time. Give them time. Yeah, so I'm giving time. Do you have any questions? Okay, cool. Thank you, Rama. I guess if it was insightful, thank you so much. And yeah, as I said, you'll have the link to this talk. And yeah, so just continue engaging with us on the platforms, and looking forward to chatting with you guys soon. So thank you so much and have a good evening. Bye.